Welcome back. Football with Farhan and Moj, brought to you by Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance and the West Coast Auto Group. We kick things off with the Seahawks and Packers. And when you look at this game coming into it, the big storyline was, of course, the quarterbacks. You've got Aaron Rodgers, who had to miss the previous game because he was in COVID protocol. All the comments he made on Pat McAfee's show really kind of stuck his foot in it, walked it back a little bit. And then you've got Russell Wilson, who's missed the better part of the last month, more than that, coming back well ahead of schedule, making sure everybody knew how far ahead of schedule he came back from. Rodgers was fine. Wilson really struggled in this game. 17-0 the final score. What do you make? Let's start with Aaron Rodgers. Not just his performance, but just the whole storyline and where it sits.
Well, I mean, the whole storyline and where it sits, I mean, it's disappointing. He's supposed to be the leader of your team. He's supposed to be the moral compass. Clearly, that's not the case when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. But hey, 23 of 37, 292 yards against the Seahawks. But, you know, you will focus on the quarterbacks. Everyone will focus on the quarterbacks. Everyone will talk about Rodgers and Wilson and all that. To me, the story of this game, the Green Bay defense.
Oh, yeah.
The Green Bay defense, without two big pieces that are missing, goes out there and shuts out Russell Wilson for the first time in his NFL career.
Yeah, Zadarius Smith and Jair Alexander both out. And when you look at what they've done the last three games, they hold a high-powered offense in Arizona to just 21 points. Kansas City to just 13 points. And then Seattle, you can debate how high-scoring they are, scoreless. So that was impressive. Aaron Jones missed a good chunk of this game. He's not going to be back for the next week or two. You know, and when Rodgers had to miss the game, we basically said, look, you just cost your team first place in the NFC. All the other contenders in the NFC for the top spot and that first-round bye all lost. So right now, Rodgers and the Packers are right there. And look, winning solves everything. And when you look at the reaction he got from the fans in Green Bay, especially after that win, all the other politicization of the vaccine and everything like that, in Green Bay with his home team, and most teams in the NFL are going to be like this. It's really going to come down to, if you win, all is good.
Hey, I totally agree with you on that. And we see that so many times in the National Football League where teams will take chances on players with savory reputations or whatever the case may be. But as long as you can help them win on Sunday, as long as the pros outweigh the cons, they'll take you.
Yeah, and that interview a couple of weeks ago was just awful. And then a week later, he goes on again and says, I do take responsibility if my comments were misleading. Not necessarily a mea culpa or an apology, but some acknowledgement, and I guess that with the win is enough. Meanwhile, the Seattle Seahawks, oh my God, like Russell Wilson, count the shades of awful. Now, in fairness, okay, he's missed a lot of time. So whether or not it's the finger, there is some rust from that level of practice time that's missed and that level of game time that's missed. He couldn't just walk in, grip it, and rip it. But all kidding aside, and you would never make the decision to play Geno Smith over Russell Wilson, but it's a fair question in hindsight. Would Smith have given them a better opportunity? Because Russell Wilson was flat out not good. His off-target percentage was over 17. Previously, it was 9 was his season high. Like, he was missing. He was throwing bad interceptions. It was not good.
Well, no, I mean, Russell Wilson had a horrible game. Let's not kid ourselves about it. But, you know, everyone's talking about missing Russell Wilson. This team misses Chris Carson. They need to get their running back. They need to get their running back. They need to get their running game going.
They should give the ball to Alex Collins more because Chris Carson's overrated. We'll see whether or not he comes back. He did practice a bit this week, had a bit of a setback. They may not get him back at any point. So right now, the Seahawks, are their playoff chances done? Because you're sitting here at 3-6, they're going to have to go 6-2, as I see it, to finish at 9-8 and give themselves a chance. 6-2, this team simply does not look capable of doing that.
Cardinals at home, Washington on the road, San Francisco at home, Houston on the road along with the Rams. Then they've got the Bears at home, the Lions at home, and the Cardinals on the road. They've got to play the Cardinals twice and the Rams once. You're telling me that they're not going to lose 2 of those games?
Yeah, and they've got to beat up
never
Cardinals
mind
team.
The other ones.
Yeah, they've got to beat up Cardinals team. We don't know if Kyler Murray is going to play in that game. But the biggest thing, my takeaway from all of this is it was a completely wasted effort by the defense because that's been the problem for the Seahawks. Their defense was really, really good in that game. Their safety play, Jamal Adams played his best game of the year. There was so much to like on defense other than the time when Bobby Wagner got run over at the goal line. They wasted that performance. The Packers, meanwhile, they visit the Vikings in a big divisional game.
Very quickly on the Seahawks, big concern for the Seahawks, as it's been all year long, covering running backs out of the backfield. Green Bay running backs combined for 123 yards in receiving yardage. It's been an Achilles heel for that defense, one of them during the course of the year. And I think these next few weeks are going to really be interesting for the future of the Seattle Seahawks. And I say that because if this team goes sideways and, finishes with a sub-500 record, 6 wins, 5 wins perhaps, what's the future of Russell Wilson in Seattle? And then, what's the future of Pete Carroll in Seattle? Because so many people have talked about the fact that his future in Seattle is tied into Russell Wilson's.
Meanwhile, the other team that is back, if you think Green Bay is there where they need to be, Kansas City, and we've lamented this on this show a number of times, right? Because it's not just that you win and lose. With the Kansas City Chiefs, it's about style points. And I've said that there are some coaches who don't care how they win, they just want to win. The Kansas City Chiefs want to win a specific way. They want to win a pretty way. And, they're unbelievably talented. They have the tools to do that. We haven't seen that even though they've managed to win some games. Well, this time they not only won against the Raiders 41-14, they won their way. And when you look at the offensive numbers, over 40 points for the first time this year, over 500 yards, Patrick Mahomes over 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. If you ask the Chiefs and if you ask Travis Kelce, they're back.
Something tells me I got my swagger back. Oh, baby.
There you go. He's back. He's got a little shake with it.
Well, I think here's the biggest stat that you missed. You ran through everything, but to me, the biggest stat is Patrick Mahomes, for the first time this year, went back-to-back games without throwing a pick.
Yeah,
that is absolutely huge. And you want to talk about a guy owning a team? Kelce, 781 receiving yards against the Raiders since 2018. That is the most for any player against one team. You want to talk about nightmares for the Raiders? Travis Kelce is in every single one of them.
Yeah, and when you look at Mahomes, a week ago, he and Kelce struggled. Like, they were able to get the ball to Tyreek Hill, but you could see there were times where Hill was visibly frustrated. 8 receptions for 119 in this game. 4 of the receptions came in third down situations, so he was there when it mattered. Hill, again, 2 touchdowns. He leads the league right now in receptions with 75. He ranks 3rd in receiving touchdowns, 4th in receiving yards. And the one thing that stands out to me about Mahomes' performance, 56% of the time on passes, he was able to get the ball out of his hands in under 2.5 seconds. That hasn't happened a lot for him. He was sitting there around 47% coming into this game, so a noticeable change in how he wanted to get the ball out. He still risked a few. There were a couple almost interceptions. That touchdown by Williams probably could have been a pick or should have been a pick. So there were a couple of risky plays, but he kept the risk plays down, and as a result, best performance of the season. Meanwhile,
I was going to say very quickly for the Raiders, to me, big concern with this team right now moving forward, their passing game and no Ruggs and not having the ability to stretch the defense. I'm going to see how that impacts the Raiders moving forward.
The Chiefs, meanwhile, likely get Clyde Edwards-Helaire back this week as they go in to, actually they host Dallas. That game is at Arrowhead. So the Cowboys coming off a big win. This is the marquee game of the week. You've got big names, big brands, big franchises, teams with a lot of success, especially at the quarterback position. The Cowboys coming off a significant 43-3 win because they'd lost the previous week against Denver. So that is their it's back moment. Dallas averages 31 points per game, which is the most in the NFL, while allowing 21.7 per game, which ranks 10th. They're tied for 6th in turnover margin at +5, thanks to a NFC best 14 interceptions. So what does Kansas City need to do to continue, or is this Dallas's game, or should they be favored on the road in Kansas City?
I look at this game, and to me, I just think this is going to be one of those games. Who has the ball last is going to wind up winning this game. This could be this easily could be something like 41-37 when it's all. Somebody could score 40 points in this game and wind up losing it. Yeah. That's how good these offenses are.
So you're saying take the over?
Take the over, definitely.
Well, as far as the Chiefs are concerned, their defense has improved, but now you're facing an offense that's ranked 5th in the league with the pass offense, 4th with their running offense, so they can beat you a lot of different ways, along with Ezekiel Elliott. They've got some support with Pollard in the backfield, so they've got a lot of weapons they can beat you with. So that's a tough order, and Kansas City looked better. They looked better this week defensively, and really the last 3 weeks, I think they've made some steps slowly defensively as they've won their last 3. Here's the one thing that I want to look at. Does Stephon Diggs, who leads the league with 8 interceptions, does he get matched up with Tyreek Hill? The Cowboys rank 26th defensively in terms of yak yardage allowed. 1,212 yak yards allowed. That could be a problem against Tyreek Hill.
Oh, it's a huge problem. When you're going up against athletes, when I see big numbers in yak, that tells me your tackling has not been that good. You need to do a much better job of tackling. And you've got all those athletes on the Kansas City side. They get the football in their hands. And, you look at the yak yardage of Hill some games. It's like 80% of his yardage is yak. He gets those little dump offs for 8-9 yards, and boom, he's gone for another 15 or 20. So for me, a big, big key for the Cowboys if they want to be successful, get hats to the football and make sure that you tackle, at least slow these guys down until the cavalry arrives.
Meanwhile, we've got OBJ in LA along with Von Miller. This was the big unveil. The two had been acquired. They didn't play last week. And, just one practice for OBJ, who actually got acquired this week, not last week, but just one practice. You got a few plays in, I think 15 plays. What'd you make of both players?
I mean, for either player to come in and have an impact in the very first week, to me, would have been something absolutely phenomenal. It didn't occur. I mean, what OBJ played 12, 15 snaps. I'm sorry, I don't buy all the hype about Odell Beckham Jr. He's on the other side of the mountain for me. He goes to the Rams. Okay, maybe he'll do something, maybe he won't, but I'm just amazed how much publicity this guy gets for the type of player that he is.
Yeah, I mean, obviously his numbers in Cleveland haven't been good, but he's not old, and I think there's a lot of people who still believe there's some ability there, so we'll see how it turns once they get comfortable, because you saw that first interception that Stafford threw on the scramble play where he threw it deep down the field to Beckham, and you can tell they're not on the same page. Well, they've had one practice. They shouldn't be on the same page. 2 catches for 18 yards. Von Miller, I saw him get pancaked by George Kittle on a block. But
a lot of Rams got pancaked in that game.
Well, and this is the point, because when you look at the Rams are built to play pass defense. Mm-hmm. That's what they want. They want to rush the passer. That's why they brought in Von Miller. That's why that Aaron Donald, as good as he is against the run, he's even better at drawing double teams against the pass so that can free other players up. Jalen Ramsey, obviously an elite cover guy. That's how they want to play. You play them physically. Okay, they don't like that so much. And they got taken to town by Tennessee the previous week. Now it's happened 2 weeks in a row. Should the Rams be
Well,
winning?
I mean, the 49ers have now won five in a row against the Rams, and that's their modus operandi, is the fact that they're going out there playing smash-mouth football against this team, and the book is out on the Rams. And you're right, that Rams defense is geared to play pass first. Why? Because a lot of teams have to throw the football against the Rams because the Rams are putting points up on the board. So the formula then is to run the football, grind out the clock, and just keep that Rams offense on the sideline and just basically impose your will on the Rams like the 49ers did.
Well, the biggest thing, too, is as you talk about complementary football, for 2 games, Matt Stafford has thrown 2 early interceptions, right? And one of them was a pick 6 in both. In the Tennessee game, might as well have been 2 pick 6s. So when you look at that situation, now the Rams cannot dictate, right? When you get out to a big lead, now you're forcing teams to throw the ball, to your point, and now that plays into their defense's hands. So, the Rams need to play a little bit differently on both sides of the ball. Can you be explosive or at least not make those mistakes? And defensively, you're going to have to figure out a way to stop a physical team coming at you. 44 rushing attempts, 19 passing attempts for San Francisco, which is really how they like to play with Jimmy G. Kyle Shanahan off the hot seat. That'll get him off the hot seat for a little bit. I talked about whether or not the Rams should be worried. How about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who lost 29-19 to the Washington football team? I called this game. You mocked me because I said, look, a year ago in the playoffs, I really liked how Ron Rivera schemed against that offense. You said, oh, well, let's just go back to 1970.
No, that's when you start talking about the University of Cincinnati.
Well, no, you said that in this game too. Play the tape, I'm telling you. So you've got 2 straight losses for the defending champs. They were a 10-point favorite in this game. It's the largest loss of Brady's career when coming off a bye. He threw 2 first-quarter interceptions against the league's worst pass defense. And I know he's missing some guys. He's still missing Antonio Brown. He's still missing Gronk. There's other guys on the defensive side of the ball. Scotty Miller on offense as well. So should they worry?
Well, I mean, this is what you have to worry about. The fact that Washington scored on their first 4 possessions, 18 minutes of game time during the course of those 4 drives. The fact that Washington's final touchdown drive was the longest touchdown drive of the year at 10 minutes and 26 seconds. But how about this? 11 for 19. That's what Washington was on 3rd down. You have to get off the field in 3rd down situations. When an opponent goes 11 for 19, man, oh man, you want to talk about grinding it out. You want to talk about time of possession. You want to talk about imposing your will. That just killed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've got to figure out a way to get off the field on 3rd down.
Here's a number for you, 58, as in the amount of time in seconds that Tom Brady's postgame press conference lasted. He started with make it quick, lasted 58 seconds. He got out of there. Bruce Arians basically threw everybody under the bus, including Brady, and said, we've got a lot of soul searching to do. And they do. And they play the New York Giants coming up, and they lose Vita Vea. So we talk about how Washington completely dominated on that final drive, 10 minutes plus 19 plays, against a run defense that was ranked number 1 in the league before. Impossible to run against. Well, Now, the single biggest factor in the middle of that defense, Vita Vea, who's going to get paid this offseason, is now out. Not serious, but doesn't look likely that he's going to play this week.
How many weeks are we into now? What, 10 weeks of the regular season? 4 or 5 weeks of the preseason? Finally, my influence is starting to, I'm starting to influence Farhan over here because guess what? He's talking about a D lineman,
Buddy,
not a
I'm
quarterback.
talking about a Washington Husky. That's what I'm talking about.
He's got to spin it back to a W for him.
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, look, there's very little good going on at Washington, so that's one of those things.